We now move on to our next story and a related development. NATO has urged responsibility and restraint as the New START treaty between the US and Russia imposing limits on their nuclear arsenals expired, raising fears of a new arms race. According to reports, Russia and China were both ramping up their nuclear capabilities and that NATO will continue to take steps necessary to ensure its own defences. Meanwhile, China has continued to rapidly expand and diversify its nuclear arsenal with more warheads and a larger number of sophisticated delivery systems. However, the Kremlin has said that it has regretted the end of last treaty governing the nuclear arms arsenals of Russia and the United States and called it a negative step. Gilbert Doctorow joins us once again to discuss this. Does Russia's response truly indicate that it is open to nuclear cooperation with the United States here? And a lack of US response as of yet, what does that signify? Can you hear me, Dr. Doctorow? Okay. Apologies there. We seem to be having some issue with Gilbert there. Hopefully he joins us back once again. The Kremlin has, of course, signalled its regret over the end of the Nuclear START treaty, a treaty that has been in place for decades now. Gilbert Doctorow joins us once again to discuss this. The Kremlin here expressing regret over the end and the expiry of the New START treaty. Does that indicate that Russia is open to nuclear cooperation? And what is the indication of a lack of a US response or statement here?
Russia is definitely open to discussion with the United States and negotiation of a new treaty, a new agreement regarding the strategic nuclear weapons. At the same time, the remarks that we have just heard from Peskov and others on behalf of the Russian government are shedding crocodile tears. The Russians don't have any serious regrets that this treaty has been abrogated or has fallen into disuse, because they had serious problems with that treaty. After all, the treaty required they put their heavy bombers, which are part of their nuclear triad, that they leave them open on their airfields, which exposed them to a rather treacherous attack by Ukraine, hitting airfields from Murmansk out to Irkutsk and destroying a fair number of those bombers. So that provision in the treaty, of course, was no friend to Russia. Moreover, the treaty lost its real value more than a year ago. The real value of the treaty was that it required regular and permanent inspections on the ground by the Russians, looking at American nuclear installations and warheads, and conversely, the Americans coming to the Russian nuclear installations and warheads. And Mr. Putin said openly, we remain, we do not cancel the treaty, but we withdraw, we suspend that part of the treaty. And that part of the treaty, the inspections, was the real core of the whole document, because it meant that there was confidence building, there were personal relations between the American and the Russian technical experts, which meant that there was minimal risk of some accidental nuclear war. That was canceled by Mr. Putin, saying rightly that de facto the United States and Russia are in a state of war, even if not de jure, and therefore it is inappropriate for us to invite American experts to our most secret and important nuclear installations. So effectively speaking, this treaty ended a year and a half ago.
And Gilbert, is it possible at this stage to negotiate anything new, or does the conflict have to come to an end before that can be really and realistically put on the table?
Well, I wouldn't leave it so open-ended that the conflict comes to an end, but because the conflict may come to an end in 1 or 2 months if these negotiations lockout going on in Abu Dhabi succeed, as they have a good chance of doing, or it may go on for several more years. So I don't believe that the Russians or the Americans want to leave it so open-ended that years go by before there is a new treaty. So something will happen, probably within the coming year, if not in the coming months.
Dr. Gilbert Doctorow, thank you as always for joining us. It's a pleasure to